let's go back to the IDPS engine. We'll talk more about the profiles we have here. So we'll have a default profile out of the box. This is going to be set to the default rule set, and it should be running in balance mode. So we can see the number of rules here, the number of alerts and rejects. So alert is just going to tell us that I've detected this thing based on this signature. It's going to throw an alert, which is going to go to our SOC. It's going to appear in your crystal eye. Reject is actively going to reject that packet. So it's going to add that protective capability rather than just the detection capability. And we have a number of rules just sitting in disabled. These rules would be used in different rule sets that don't necessarily apply to your average environment. So there's no point having them enabled. It just creates an overhead. Now, what I can do, it's pretty hard to read, is I can add a new profile in here. First profile. Give it a description. This one's for SCADA. Now I'm going to set this into network security monitoring. I don't want active blocking. I'm going to log on. Go here. Let's just say HTTP. We can do anomaly as well. That's going to add that machine learning. And I'd have to create a zone here first. So if I had a SCADA zone, I would set that to the SCADA zone. We'll just set it to hotland, for example. Okay, so I now have this additional rule set, profile here, and I should be able to click this to started. Oh, it stopped. Okay. Move on to rules. I'll come back to that in a minute.
You'll need a real interface, James.
Yeah. So. Yeah, unfortunately, I'm forcing that through. All right, so we look at the default rule set. And we can see we went through that rule filter already. My apologies. There is an option here for manage rule set categories. So within this rule set, we've broken that up into a number of different categories covering things like Trojans and ICMP traffic and what could be deemed inappropriate, malware. Oh, there we go, worms, etc. So each of these stuck to the heading then. We'll have a number of rules and their status. So are they enabled, disabled? Are they reject? Are they alert? So there's a lot of flexibility in there. If you want more information on this, I suggest you go to the threat hunting workshop that is, or the training session rather, that's available on Orchestrate. It covers off the content of these rule sets as well as how to go about actively creating your own rule based on a threat. I believe it's a ransomware or a CNC Trojan that we used for that example. And we'll pick out from the packet capture certain elements of the communication that are unique to this particular type of malware, and then we'll create a rule based on that communication and get some detections as well. So yes, as far as what to log, a big issue with cybersecurity products in general, particularly when you have a lot of capability like this one has, is creating what's called alert fatigue. And that is, you want to know everything, or at least you think you do at the start. And what you end up with is so much information that it's just impossible to process. Now, at the SOC level, we take raw data and we provide correlations and a certain level of computation to that raw data so that we can manage alert fatigue on our side, along with rotation of SOC shifts, etc. But on the client side, cutting down on that data reduces the events per second going to the SOC for one, and it makes the threat dashboard within the device more usable. It also reduces the overhead you have in processing, thereby increasing throughput in high performance environments. So what we would look at then is a process of tuning the firewall over the period of 6 months or so, or whenever there's a major change in the environment, to reduce the amount of false positives and noise within the system. So I'm under IDPS threat hunting and inbox here. You can follow along if you want, but you're likely to see different events than what I can see here. Now, it should be noted that there is a single Windows computer behind the Crystal Eye. It is not a corporate network. And even though we throw traffic at it to create, attack scenarios and external alerts on the system, these are not what we generally tune in a client environment. We'd be looking at, again, what's a normal business process look like? Is it triggering anything that it shouldn't? What's a false positive? What's a genuine threat? We could put a Crystal Eye in a network, or any partner could, and see actual Trojan communication on day one, which is, not something you want to tune out. It's something you want to look into. But I don't know your specific client's network. I don't know their business processes. And knowing that is what's going to give you the capability to say, this is bad. This computer that sits in the corner that just does this basic processing should not be communicating this way or in this volume or at this time of day. So having knowledge over your customers' environments, what's normal, what isn't, is going to give you a great threat hunting capability that can be utilized through these dashboards. Now, I should know that a curl outbound is not normal, but that is simulated. And this is something that we would be worrying about. So curl would be a binary within a Unix environment that allows you to grab network data, web data from an external platform. This could be used by malware to try and exfiltrate information or to receive commands if it were part of a botnet. So this is something I generally want to alert upon. Similarly, with a Trojan keep alive, this is coming from external to internal. I would assume that this is scanner activity. Is somebody looking for rogue bots on the internet that potentially don't have a bot owner anymore that they can take over. If I went and checked the destination IP, which would be my Windows endpoint here, I could do some checks to make sure that no, it does not, in fact, have Bitfroze Trojan on it. So this is always going to be a multi-factor approach, I guess. The network level is going to give you information that you can use to analyze your endpoints, but there's no real one-stop shop in cybersecurity. It is a thing that gives you work, it gives you benefit, but it also reduces risk. So having visibility it's a very powerful tool. I can see here that we have Windows submitting USB metadata to Microsoft. Now, this is one we generally tune out, but there may be certain environments where you do not have Windows systems. Maybe it's a Unix environment, maybe they're only Apples, and the use of Windows is potentially a breach of corporate policy. So you might want to block a submission of USB metadata to Microsoft. This is just going to be a reach out to Windows Update Service. But yeah, so you may want to block it, you may not. We would generally, in most environments, tune this one out, but it is a standard rule nonetheless, because it will depend on your specific environment. Now, a lot of events come through here. Going through them one by one is not going to give you it's going to take up all of your time. I would suggest to do this, to go through reports and to look at alert signatures over time. Now, we don't have much data here. We've got 6 alerts on that one that I was just looking at. We've got some outbound queries, and we've got that one inbound keep alive. But if I were to extend that over more time, I'm not sure if I actually have more than a couple of days data here, but no, I don't. I would see more and more signatures here. And I would see which source IPs, rather, what's the destination and what's the source. This may give me useful information on what needs to be checked within the environment, particularly in incident response scenarios whereby you have the potential of a compromised machine. You're looking for a threat actor pivoting from machine to machine. I might be looking at certain protocols for detecting that, and it may be narrowing down that time period as well. So under AI, we have some machine learning capabilities. Again, these require a base set of data in order to perform analysis. It'll be looking at 1 hour, I think it's actually 1 minute 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, and so forth to do anomaly comparisons to see what's normal traffic, what isn't, and then it's going to throw an alert if there's an issue there. And we have within here a 404 page. Yep, I think we have one of those. Here we are. All right, so the capability to actually pass this on to another human, which many find particularly useful on account of there being 40,000 something odd rules. Having somebody who intimately knows the rule format and what it means and can give you some feedback on what to look for in your network, or in some capacities, this may be a reach out for an incident response. I'm not sure if we covered off, Ben, the incident response form in Orchestrate and the logging of an incident, but there is the capability within Orchestrate under incident response to actually put in times and dates and things noticed, which machines affected, what's the outcome of a particular incident, and push this to our SOC to engage in an incident response process. Within here, there is also the ability to escalate this particular IDPS alert. This will follow a similar process. It's going to send that on to our SOC. It's going to create a ticket in our system, and we'll perform some analysis on that to give you some, or rather to start the conversation about, is this something you should be worried about? Could this potentially be an incident? And whether or not you should look to then engage incident response services. It may be that, say the Windows updates one, I may just respond to this to say, look, there's Windows updates taking place within your system. Is this a Windows computer? Is this normal traffic? And in most instances that can be closed off, but this is a Trojan communication we're seeing day after day. Then potentially, there is an incident. So you do have that capability within the system to actually escalate to us with the knowledge that this is not normal. Yeah, so that's a useful capacity. Now, active sessions is going to give us a real-time view of what's happening in different network interfaces or virtual interfaces. This is quite useful if you're looking at something like a DOS attack, or you have a network availability issue or a rogue machine. You would see then, spikes in traffic by certain network segments, and this will just allow you to trace down what the source of that is, or what the destination of that is.